Last season brought drama, close battles, and exciting action in the Bootleg Racing League. James Lowe came away with its league title for the Grand National Series, but the question on everyone's mind is, who will be able to take the crown during the summer months? During the summer last year, there were plenty of intriguing moments and plenty of exciting battles. It's expected to be the same in 2021, as we're about to find out who can come away with momentum to start off the season here on the Global SimRacing Channel. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the virtual Nashville Farigrounds Speedway for the first race of Season 7 for the Bootleg Racing League's Grand National Series presented by Gargamel's Kitchen. I'm Justin Prince. Along some of the booth tonight is Chad Irvine. Behind the scenes is our director, Sean Ambrose, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Let's take the opportunity to learn about this facility that will be seeing racing action at tonight. Here's your GSRC track guide for Nashville Fairgrounds Speedway.
The Waltrips, the Marlins, Bobby Hamilton, Jerry Mayfield, legendary names in the world of NASCAR. And they have one thing in common. They spent a good part of their early careers here at the Nashville Fairgrounds Speedway, a track that recently took over the title of longest continuing operating facility in the U.S. from Milwaukee. Cup cars raced here until 1984, B-Class and trucks both left after 2000. This facility may have opened in 1904 at the beginnings of the track we know of today in 1958, but with modernization, it's on its way up. While many consider Nashville to be a half mile, it's actually a bit longer, at just shy of 0.6 of a mile in length. From the top down, it looks like a traditional oval, and there isn't a whole lot of difference between the four 18-degree banked corners, at least on that map. But where the character comes in is the bumps. This track hasn't been repaved since 1996, and it shows. But we could go over where all the bumps are, but they only give me about 2 minutes here. But navigating those is the key to a good lap. The All-American 400, one of the premier super late model races in the country, runs here yearly. ARCA has been making stops here again as well, and they have a huge slate of local racing here with street stocks, modifieds, trucks, and even Legends cars. And they are all vying to be that next Darrell Waltrip or Sterling Marlin, as Legends are made right here at Nashville's Fairgrounds Speedway.
Look at your GSRC track guide for Nashville Fairgrounds Speedway. Now let's bring my co-announcer for tonight, Chad Irvine. And Chad, this track has brought many challenges for the series over its time. Your thoughts on this track for this car combination tonight?
Oh, it's definitely going to be interesting just watching these guys practice, get their feet wet, and get ready for today's race. Looks like the track temp is only 67 degrees, but these 18 degrees of banking do not seem to play nice at times with these cars just over half a mile in length here in Nashville. And it's definitely going to put on a fantastic show here in Bootleg Racing League. I'm definitely looking forward to seeing how these guys end up making moves on a track that it doesn't have a lot of room to maneuver around other cars. It can definitely get very treacherous, especially in the middle of the corners.
It can still provide multiple different types of groups of racing, and it's going to make things very intriguing, absolutely. As these drivers continue to make their way around for final practice, let's take the time to remind you about the series sponsor for this season, Gargamel's Kitchen. Gargamel's Kitchen is a food-grade nitrous oxide provider located in Denver, Colorado, and a proud sponsor of the Bootleg Racing League's Grand National Series. Visit their office at 2045 South Valencia Street and give them a call at 720-707-6178. Many drivers have sported that sponsor throughout their cars, throughout their campaigns, but last campaign, it was James Lowe who came away with the championship with 398 points over Austin Belke. Justin Morton, J.R. Shepard, and Kurt Smith rounded out the top 5. It should be worth noting J.R. Shepard was part-time last season along with Justin Morton at one point, and those drivers ended up combining for 8 of the 11 victories last season. As these competitors make their way around the racetrack though, Chad, let's take the opportunity to look at your race details as we begin a brand new season.
As you mentioned, this is round 1 of 11 here, and what's going to be a fantastic season. 100 laps tonight, no tire changes and that's going to be something to watch out for as the runs go on. You do get one fast repair, you get one backup car to go to if something happens early on, and there is a grid inversion of the top 8 spots from the last race. So it's going to be fun to watch those guys battle throughout this race. Getting ready to put on another fantastic show, another fantastic season here in the Bootleg Racing League.
And you mentioned those track conditions for tonight. As cars continue to make their way around the circuit, that track temperature is picking up as the rubber's being built up and the heat's being absorbed by the racetrack from the cars. But at the top of the board, it's James Lowe with an 18.987, Matthew Thunhorse an 18.999 in second, Brian Dean rounding out the top 3 at the moment in practice. And as we take a look with Thunhorse from his viewpoint, you can see the triple monitors he's utilizing, looking like he's trying to utilize the second lane more so in turns 1 and 2.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a different racetrack compared to most. You can hold the very bottom on the yellow line, but I've had most success in these at this track running basically a half lane to a full lane off of the bottom, kind of straddling that first dashed white line there that he's running on the at the middle of the corner. So definitely going to be fun to watch where guys are more comfortable in these cars and see how they go, where they move to as the tires wear down. Because as we mentioned, no tire changes. That's going to be the big thing to keep an eye on as the series and the race goes on.
And drivers, as a result, for competitors such as J.R. Shepard and many others, are known for their long run speed. As a result, Chad, that's so very critical. Others like Austin Belke in practice emphasize it. He is 6th in practice right now, in fact, with a 19.1.
We got another on board with him, and some of these guys rocking a lot of old school NASCAR paint jobs. We've got the DuPont Jeff Gordon machine there. I saw a Mark Martin Winn-Dixie paint job. And there you go, the Texaco Haviland spinning right in front of him as well. That was Jason Menda spinning there as well.
And this allows the opportunity as well for a fresh start for some, but for others, trying to amend the potential of trouble. James Lowe, of course, had that strong championship performance. Consistency was the key. Even when he had bad luck, he was able to recover, Chad, multiple times to be able to go from 14th back up to about 6th or 7th to get valuable points and minimize any points loss he would have had that would have balanced out the good and the bad.
Yeah, that's one of those things when you race for an entire season that you kind of have to think about is, I can go for the win, I can push even harder, but I could also end up damaging my car in the process, and that does not always pay off with great dividends. So definitely a smart move there, just kind of racing for every point that you possibly can and not worrying about one race versus the entire season.
Speaking of one race, last race, it should be worth noting that 2 drivers received EOL penalties for the start of this season. Kurt Smith, Jason Menda. For Smith, it was going too quick into a corner, wrecking an air machine. Jason Menda, avoidable contact, wrecking another car, was the reason for his respective penalties. So those drivers will have to start at the very back of the field tonight. And how critical will that be, where you have some very quick drivers, keep in mind, having to work their way from the back of the pack to try and cut their way to the front. In particular, Jason Menda, who's been strong here in the past.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to watch how these guys play out. Both of them right now in practice, their times are relatively towards the middle of the field right now. Menda currently sits 6th in the pre-race practice. Kurt Smith is a little further down in 11th, but they are getting more and more comfortable as the track comes to them. Just kind of getting more comfortable around other guys and kind of just feeling the car out, because this car can be very treacherous coming up on the throttle, especially at a track where the banking just kind of dies away coming off the corners.
And I think this onboard with J.R. Shepard really emphasizes the difficulties here. You can see just how much he's having to wield this machine around the racetrack. In fact, letting cars go in the bottom that time, the Different Path Motorsports machine.
Yeah, it's a very bumpy racetrack, and it can upset the cars, and we've seen it a couple times here with guys just getting too aggressive with the throttle. And that's one of the most dangerous things about these ARCA cars, is the throttle shape is very different than a lot of cars on the service, and it can be very tricky getting up to speed or getting back to the throttle definitely can upset the car, and it makes it not so fun, especially when you're trying to do it surrounded by a lot of other talented drivers.
You talked about some of the difficulties of this racetrack. What are some other things to keep in mind for this race for tonight, in your opinion, as we're down to the final 2 minutes and 30 seconds?
Well, typically I would think that pit entry is very difficult, but with no tire changes, guys are not going to be utilizing that, except for maybe to get some repairs. Pit entry here is very difficult coming off of turn. It's basically in the middle of turns 3 and 4, and it is a hard left with a very small gap in the pit wall. It's a unique thing about this racetrack, but other than that, it just, the narrow confines of it all, it really seems to funnel down in the corners. It's pretty wide, but at the same time, those walls will come up and bite you at any given moment.
Absolutely, and it's so easy in a lot of cases as a result, Chad, for drivers to get even a little bit loose coming out of the corner and ricochet back up the racetrack.
Yeah, we've seen it a couple of times just watching the hands here of Kurt Smith. There's not a moment where the hands are steady going through the corners, just sawing that wheel left and right, trying to keep it under you, trying to go as fast as you possibly can, and it gets even more difficult when you don't have any wiggle room with the car to your outside.
From what you've seen in practice and your experiences in the past when it comes to BRL competition, who are the drivers you're keeping your eye on the most on for tonight?
Just from watching these guys in practice, James Lowe right now second in the practice session. He is as well last season's champion. J.R. Shepard won 7 of 11 races last season as well. He seems to be struggling maybe a little bit here in practice, but I think that once the green flag flies, he's not going to have to worry too much about that. He's just going to wheel it, deal it, and see if he can get to the front.
I'm honestly keeping my eye on Matthew Thunhorst. We talked with him during the post-race, the final race of last season. He's somebody that has talked about, if he's got the opportunities to do so, he might be someone to be a contender for this year's championship. Came away with a couple victories, a couple strong victories, and that, as well as had that back and forth finish with J.R. Shepard at South Boston. That is so memorable from season 6 of competition in the Grand National Series. Don't forget about Justin Morton, though, as well. Justin Morton also very quick last season. It's going to be the question of, can he be a contender for this championship this season? We're about to find out how the contenders fare out and who can make a name for themselves here at Nashville Fairgrounds Speedway. As practice is now coming to a close, Matthew Thunhorst, quickest driver on the board, an 18.917. James Lowe, an 18.987. Brian Dean, Ruben Altes, J.R. Shepard, the top 5 in practice. But it's time to look at how the inversion will be for the start of this season. As the drivers have now wrapped up their practice session, it's time to take a peek at your starting grid here from Nashville. Ruben Altes will start on the pole tonight. He had a 19 flat in practice. Todd Liston will start on the outside of the front row. Justin Morton will start in row 2 alongside James Lowe, with Austin Belke and J.R. Shepard the teammates 5th and 6th. Matthew Thunhorst starts in 7th tonight, with Kurt Smith in the 8th position. Ryan Seneker starts in 9th, and Mike Allen rounds out your top 10 chat.
11th is the number 22 machine of Bruce Pearson. On the outside of him is going to be Jason Menda, with Mike Holloway and Lowell Jewell in the 14th position. Wrapping up the field as well is going to be Donnie Moore in the 26th, and Brian Den with a 19.048 in practice, wrapping up the field in 16th position.
That's a look top to bottom at your drivers starting tonight from Nashville Fairgrounds Speedway. And again, remember, Kurt Smith, Jason Menda expected to have EOL penalties as a result of incidents to start off this season. Those drivers receiving those penalties in sim now. With that, we've already discussed a bit about the track and some of the difficulties. What are your keys to victory for here tonight?
Stay out of danger and manage your tires are the big 2, because as the race goes on, those tires fall away. I mean, if you might have the pace early on the short run, but once that green flag flies towards the end of the race, you're just going to be slipping, sliding, holding on for dear life.
Especially with this track, which can really light up the tires as a run goes on. And the drivers are just about all set to go. Going to be a very intriguing battle to start things off in the second row on back based on last season's performances, especially with Morton, Lowe, Shepard, Belke, and Thunhorst all lined up in 5 of the top 7 positions. But it's time to find out how this season will fare. Green flag is out. We're underway from Nashville.
Great jump from Altice. Getting in turn number 1, getting there early. Cars just need to try to get single file now and kind of manage things early on, as it's a very long race.
Justin Morton already looking to take away second as Todd Liston climbs up the hill. James Lowe now side by side for third as Robert Altice leads the first lap of the new season.
And
Liston.
Wow, the back end just stepped out a little too hot there. Maybe not too comfortable running that high up the banking when the car was inside.
Their new paint scheme, unfortunately for Liston, not the start he wanted for this season. Had a very rough third corner, and then it got worse by turn 1, where he definitely snapped around. He was definitely very loose up on that second, third groove.
Yeah, we saw just the corner before as well, kind of having to save the car as it walked up the banking. That time, though, unable to do the same, and unfortunately it ended with damage to that race car only on lap number 2.
Rear end getting some of the more significant damage from that tap right there. And a good job to lock it on down. The second portion of that was having to, essentially, from what it looked like from the onboard, having his wheel go completely upside down almost, just to make sure it didn't snap back into traffic.
And the interesting thing to note, there is some damage to the race car, but he is keeping it out, not using his fast repair yet. Just kind of, I think, biding his time and seeing how the car feels under green flag conditions, because that sim racer coin Indy Autosport Tour really did take a little wallop into the wall, but it seems to be looking okay.
As a result of that caution flag, James Lowe is up to third. J.R. Shepard is already up to P4. Matthew Thunhorst rounds out the top 5. Todd Liston is coming down this time by, in fact, for service. The drivers have the opportunity to take manual damage repair if they so choose. Oh, by the way, GSRC has live timing and scoring available at GSRC.tv for tonight's racing action. Keep up with your favorite teams and drivers. Once again, GSRC.tv. As Liston will get some manual damage repairs done to his race car. And it's going to be having to be very quick. The pace lap's just 44 seconds here at Nashville Fairgrounds Speedway.
Something notable, I'm just looking at timing and scoring here, is Kurt Smith went from 8th to 15th when the green flag flew, and he wasn't involved in any notable contact, so I'm not sure
why. That's the EOL.
Oh, that was the EOL, that is correct. I completely forgot about that. But yeah, so he's got some work to do to not work his way up through any positions, but didn't have a lot of time to do so either. Guys seemed very comfortable on the inside line. The outside is where guys were getting squirrely.
We'll try this again with Ruben Altice in control of the field. Justin Morton to the outside. Already they're trying to back up from the iRacing pace car for the start. Keep an eye on J.R. Shepard as well on that high line, as well as Austin Belke. That high line can provide a lot of momentum on these restarts. Green flag is out. We're back away from Nashville. Ruben Altice with a good launch. Already gets himself single file into the corner.
Yeah, another great launch from Altice. He's practiced those, it seems like, because he just gets away very well and cleared by the time they get into turn number 1.
J.R. Shepard keeping the pressure up for third position. As you see from the back end of Altice, how tight and how bumpy this racetrack can be. Morton providing a lot of pressure as Altice gets his time pipped by a 19.594 from Justin Morton to start the quickest laps.
Yeah, the first couple guys are single file, but further back, still a fantastic battle there with Lowe and Shepard, the 98 and the 99, and they are fighting hard. Neither driver wants to give each other an inch.
And we're back under caution. Mike Allen, Bruce Pearson involved in trouble. Kurt Smith has also already made his way down to the pit lane, so we are under yellow already for a second time this season. Let's take a look at what happened with the GSRC replay. Kurt Smith is now out of the race after this incident.
Oh, just unfortunate. It looked like there the 22 of Bruce Pearson wiggled coming off the corner, could not keep it out of contact there, and unfortunate to collect another driver in the process.
By the way, Kurt Smith was a secondary incident that ended up looping around in a solo car spin. And what a move by Seneca to avoid that.
I'm not sure how he got through that. That is incredible. He saw the opening. It was there. He shot the gap to get through.
Yeah, that was absolutely incredible. Let's take a look at this one more time from Seneca. Former iron worker. Showing his ability to be able to thread the needle. My goodness.
And I think that what really helped him out there is that crossover gate in the track. Opens up just a little bit wider for him to sneak through there. What a fantastic piece of driving there from Ryan Seneca.
Seneca up to 8th position as a result of dodging that. Brian Dean, by the way, already up 9 positions. And don't forget, Dean has shown good speed in this series. He's been able to dodge all the trouble to get himself quickly inside the inversion spots. Started 16th originally. Moved up about 1 position as a result of the EOLs from early on in the race, but still a strong start from the 23.
If you're able to make up 9 spots in just about that many green flag laps, I can't wait to see what happens when we get him under a green flag run, because my goodness, he is just making a charge to the front.
Been very impressive so far, but also been very impressive for Ruben Altis to start off the season, leading the first 12 plus laps. Lights are out on top of the iRacing pace car, as Altis and Morden will start on the front row, Shepard and Lowe in row 2, Thunhorst and Belke in row 3, Dean and Seneca row 4, Moore and Jewell rounds out the top 10 at the moment. Mike Holloway in 11th, Todd Liston 12, Jason Mender, Bruce Pearson, Mike Allen, all still in the race. Kurt Smith, as mentioned, has now put his car behind the wall. iRacing pace car looking to pull off. And keep in mind, Altis has been launching off and on in various spots. Another early launch this time, off and away. And he's back single file into turn 1. Justin Morton keeping up the pressure, though, as J.R. Shepard moves to the bottom to take it side by side for second.
Top 5 all still side by side, battling very hard. Austin Belke right there as well, waiting for someone to slip up in front of him and get in this fight himself.
Matthew Thunhorst and James Lowe also joining the fight as Justin Morton a little bit later on the brakes this time, trying to get to the quarter panel of the 11. Forces him to the bottom. Now side by side for the race lead as the TDR machine looking to wheel it from the second line. Can he take away the lead? Yes, he can. Justin Morton to the point.
Very aggressive driving with so many laps still to go. I'm surprised to see them fighting this hard, still with over 80 laps remaining.
These early runs are some of the more valuable times to get track position. Matthew Thunhorst has also passed by Ruben Altis. Altis already shuffled a 4th. As you can see from the back end of the 9 machine, J.R. Shepard is keeping the pressure up. The long run king of this series as Morton misses the bottom this time.
And guys, very aggressive further back in line. And there's almost some contact from Lowell Jewell and Donnie Moore, as Jewell a little bit later on the brakes going into the corner, but able to avoid contact, and they still remain single file throughout most of the pack.
That was the battle for the final inversion spot for the time being, as at the moment everyone getting themselves sorted together outside of a side-by-side for 12th position. You see the backdrop. It's going to get interesting though for the race lead. For J.R. Shepard, his go time has depended on a week-to-week basis, it seems, Chad. Sometimes it's 60 to go, sometimes it's 30 to go. Right now, his go time seems to be right now wanting to keep this pressure up.
Yeah, the way that this race is going so far, you just kind of need to manage your tires, hold on for dear life, and not let the leader out of your sights. If you get too far behind in this race, you're going to have to start pushing maybe a little too hard at the end of it. So just definitely have to keep the leaders within eyesight and make sure you're in a position to win as the race goes on.
Also very critical, and as well, forced the race leader to burn up his equipment as well. Burn up the tires up in the front.
Yeah, you can already see Justin Morton running about half a lane higher in the middle of the corner. Maybe just trying to save his stuff just a little bit more. J.R. Shepard, though, all over that back bumper.
Give credit to Ruben Altis as well. One of his better runs in the past couple weeks or so. He still has kept his car inside the top 5. And Ruben Altis is one of the drivers who at times in the past, keep in mind, Chad, has struggled to have that long run consistency.
Yeah, and it's about 10 laps into this current green flag run, the longest we've seen so far, and Altis really giving a little bit of a gap to Thornhurst right in front of him, so going to be interesting to watch as we now ride on board with Altis, looking back at James Lowe, and I think Lowe wants to get up with the front guys and kind of mix it up with them. Meanwhile, Altis is kind of content just hanging out in the top 5 and saving his stuff for later on in the event.
Looking back from Ruben Altis from the state of Virginia, manager of housekeeping services at Ferrum College. Looking to stay in front of the defending champion, James Lowe, contractor from Portsmouth, Virginia. All this is while Matthew Thunhorst has now started hounding the back end of the 98 and starting to apply the pressure for second position up the road as well.
Yeah, these guys up front, very aggressive. The front 3 still all within about half a second of each other. Then they have a pretty decent gap back to Altis and Lowe really wants to get by Altis as soon as possible. Just can't find the room to get the move done.
Lowe taking a peek to the inside. Couldn't get to the quarter panel, though, as Altis slides up to the second line. Austin Belke also staying in this grouping as talked about. Brian Dean also trying to close up to this pack as well.
Yeah, it's interesting watching Lowe and Altis. They're running a lot lower on the track, it seems, than the front 3, as Matthew Thornhurst is running well above the white line there on the entrance of the corner. And here comes a shot for James Lowe, but decides better of it. No, he's going to get the move, and they're door-to-door through turn number 2.
And James Lowe gets the run and takes away the 4th position. That's after a big bobble coming off of turn 4. Austin Belke now running the bottom underneath him. Well, he has some scrubbing on the right side of his door, and now he moves up into 5th position. So Ruben Altis starting his decline as we see the viewpoint of Austin Belke and how dialed in he is with that rim.
Plenty of focus there in the eyes of Belke. Altis coming off of turn 4. Just lost all momentum, had to check up to keep the car under him. That opened the door for Lowe, and then Belke just followed him right through.
Speaking of the race leaders, meanwhile, the top 3 all covered by half a second right now at 69 laps to go. Matthew Thunhorst trying to build up a strong run to be able to get around the 98 machine. Here comes the peak to the inside into turn 3. Thunhorst trying to take it away from Shepard. Shepard with the squeeze on back. Shepard nearly taps the wall, in fact, as Thunhorst not backing down.
Yeah, very aggressive on corner entry is Thunhorst, and man, it's so much fun watching these guys so respectful of one another. They're not giving each other an inch of space, but they know exactly how each other's going to race, and they're keeping things clean for the most part. All thought that Thunhorst had a chance at contact there. Thought better of it. J.R. Shepard still holds on to that 2nd position.
They nearly turned each other, it looked like, into turn 4 last time by with how tight it was from fender to quarter panel. That resets the 8 machine and lost them both half a second to Justin Morton. If you're Justin Morton, this is exactly what he wants to see. Them fighting.
Yeah, they are fighting. He's got clean racetrack in front of him, and he can just kind of sit on cruise control and hold his own for now as these guys fight back in behind him, save his tires for when he needs them, if these guys catch him and they start battling. Of
note, Ruben Altis has shuffled back to 8th position. Brian Dean is up to 6th position, a +10. Donnie Moore +8 in 7th as well, right behind your race leader grouping. With 64 to go, drivers trying to regroup to get back up to Moore. And how do you try and regroup without burning up your equipment? As in, how do you get yourself to save the tires but also chip away at that interval to make sure you close up?
I think the biggest thing is just focusing on your own car, hitting your marks, and not worrying about what anybody else around you is. Once you start trying to outbrake somebody or overdrive somebody else, or just if you focus too much on making up ground and not enough on just getting through the laps cleanly, that's when you start burning your stuff up. That's how you end up scrubbing the tires, as we see a very defensive line from J.R. Shepard worrying about Thunhorse right behind him.
With how close some of the battles have been over the past couple of seasons, do you blame them for fighting this aggressively? Thunhorse came onto the scene, especially last season. He's talked about 2 victories in the number 8 machine. It's a very dominant run to get himself to 6th in the point standings by the season's conclusion. And now he wants to try and start the climax of this battle. J.R. Shepard with a bit of a squeeze. Matthew Thunhorse backs it down again. And again, he had the opportunity to dive to the inside and go for that hole. Elects not to take it as we see the viewpoint again for the triple monitors.
Yeah, and watching these guys come off the corner, there's a caution out on the racetrack. It's the 22.
It's Bruce Pearson once more in trouble. Back of the field. Scored 13th position last time by, looped it around to the inside wall, puts us under caution prior to halfway. Let's take another look at what happened to Pearson.
Yeah, you saw the back end start to step out midway through the corner, but kept it under him. And just as he picked up the throttle, did it a little bit too quickly, and unfortunately just barely nudged that inside retaining wall.
Not how the night for Bruce Pearson wanted to be, to say the very least, tonight. Head of school security and the owner of a student STEM program that teaches math, physics, business, marketing, and broadcasting using iRacing. But with this caution flag, it makes things intriguing now, especially since this will be the first time Justin Moore will be in control of the field here, presumably. It's just a matter of how does this now play out for Shepard and Thunhorse too.
Yeah, Altice led on the first 2, or on the start and every restart up until now. He's dropped all the way back to 8th, but Morton now in control, and my goodness, we're going to have quite the battle with about 46 or so, or 50 laps or so remaining when we go green.
Of note, Mike Allen has elected to come down to the pit lane for repairs. Bruce Pearson has come down to get a fast repair. After this caution flag period, everybody else staying out on the racetrack. Just 3 drivers overall who are still in the race have had to come down to the lane. Liston, Pearson, and Allen so far tonight. We've seen attrition be a major staple at times for these races, but tonight it's been more so 1 or 2 car incidents in this race tonight. Chad.
Yeah, that's one of those things that as the race goes on, you just kind of realize, you always have a shot at the top 5. Something can happen up in front of you, and you can always work your way up as long as you keep your car clean and you keep yourself out of trouble. You can't worry about what everybody else is doing around you. If you just focus on keeping your car clean, you're going to have a clean one at the end.
That's also very critical to think about, especially for this type of a race, this type of a series. As several drivers warming up their tires, you see the viewpoint for the 8 machine, how these drivers are all set to double them up. 54 to go when the green flag flies this time by. Justin Morton in control of the field, followed by Shepard, Thunhorst, and Lowe. Belke, Dean, Moore, Altice. The top 8 with Mike Hallway and Lowell Jewell, 9th and 10th positions. So far, it's been a race with several different battles, but now the battle is about to pick up. Oh, and we have contact before we take the green. Justin Morton went up the track in the JR Shepherd. Green flag is now out, off and away. What an intriguing start to this one.
Neither driver can be happy about that one, and there's almost some contact further back as well with Brian Dean almost going around. But man, these guys fighting very hard on this restart. They don't want to give up anything out there.
JR Shepherd holding on to second. Matthew Thunhorst in third position. James Lowe in fourth. Austin Belke rounding out the top five, the first side by side between Moore and Dean for the sixth position. Still though, see that side by side building up. Moore wants it. Dean wants to try and get the high line to work though.
Yeah, Dean does not seem to have any grip there out there in second and third lane. He is a full car and a half width higher than you'd normally want to run. He is losing a bunch of time for it.
Oh, and Dean nearly got hit by Altice as Altice slides around. Mike Holloway has to check up as a result. A little bit squirrely in that group is Dean as well, getting the back end all kicking out down the front straightaway.
A lot of these guys further back in the pack, pushing a little bit too hard on this restart. You see them weaving, sliding, and losing the back end. They're keeping things clean for now, but I'm surprised at how hard these guys are pushing still with 50 laps to go.
Cross flags up in the air. As now we're at the halfway mark. Justin Morton still holding serve at the front of the field and continuing to try and add on to what's been a successful career in the BRL's Grand National Series presented by Gargamel's Kitchen for him. JR Shepherd, though, looking for yet another victory in this series, keeping the pressure up on the 9 machine.
And just like we saw last time, the top 4 checked out just enough from Austin Belke. Belke about 7 or 8 car lengths behind Lowe, and he's got a bunch of cars back behind him that are fighting very hard to get around as well.
Last time by Morton a little bit quicker by a couple 100ths of a second, by the way, in this battle for the race lead. It's looking like Shepherd is looking like at the very least he's trying to tweak how he's taking these lines a little bit different compared to Morton, trying something different here.
Yeah, you see guys running 3-4 different lines at this point. So still running everywhere from that yellow line up about 3 full lanes above that. So guys have their options here. They can try to dive it up the inside of somebody, and that's what we see going further back in the pack. But right now, Morton just doing everything he can to hold the bottom and work his way around, holding onto that lead in front of Shepherd.
As well, Thunhorst trying to keep the pressure up for second position as well. Remember, they've nearly made contact a couple times. Battle for that position. Thunhorst trying to build up a run, using the banking as a bit of a ramp this time. Back within a car length, not close enough for the lunge quite yet.
Yeah, these guys still building about half a second gap now back to fourth. It's now down to 3 guys at the lead pack, and they're just fighting and fighting, laps ticking away. And it seems like as they go, they keep getting faster. Fastest lap of the race right now still has been turned by Justin Morton, a 19.149. But these times are starting to fall off as tires fall away. Fastest lap last time around was a 19.6 from Morton.
That continues to trend towards that direction of where you're seeing that interval grow. Shepherd last time losing a couple tenths, in fact, in this battle for position. So what do you do if you're Matthew at this point to try and get the job done, to get this pass on the 98?
The way that this race is played out, you really are just waiting for somebody else to make a mistake in front of you. You can try to dive it up the inside, and there it is.
Shepherd got loose coming off of turn 4. Opens up the door for side-by-side between Thunhorst and Shepherd. Near door-to-door, Shepherd scrapes the wall down the backstretch. Thunhorst continues to ride next to the yellow line. Shepherd not giving him any leeway from that top line, though.
The absolute pinch from Shepard is fantastic to see, knowing exactly where the other car is going to be and knowing that you need to pinch him down there so you get the better run off. And so far, it looks like Shepard is not going to win this fight. Thornhurst is now ahead by about half a car.
That time, Thunhorse nearly kicked up into the fender of Shepard. Still side by side with under 40 laps to go now.
And all this is doing is opening the door for James Lowe to get right back in there as well.
Absolutely, and Lowe thinking about an opportunity as Thunhorse slides his back tires nearly into the fender of Shepard. Shepard now losing ground down the front stretch. Still keeping it though at the corner panel as he late breaks it to try and keep it side by side. Advantage Thunhorse as Shepard into the wall. Shepard gets shuffled to third.
And he's not giving up. You see him thinking about the crossover move there, getting right back to the bottom, making sure that Lowe can't get past. You see how much he's closing up. He is fighting very hard. Shepard is trying to get back by Thunhorst.
Knows this position is going to be very valuable, to say the very least. Nearly going for this season, especially with how these drivers described their battles in the past. Now it's the big question. What does the 8 do? And does he have enough tires to battle his friend? These drivers have talked about in the past, keep in mind, Chad, how they've worked together in these races, and now it's going to be very critical to see what happens amongst them. Top 4, by the way, have checked out by more than 2 seconds compared to Austin Belke and Donnie Moore on the racetrack in this battle with 34 laps to go.
Yeah, laps winding down at about 19.5 seconds per, and I mean, it just feels like as this race winds down, the guys are going to get more and more aggressive. We've already seen that be the case so far, especially with that move that Thunhorst put on J.R. Shepard just a little bit ago.
Thunhorst is trying to close this gap, but is losing some ground right now is the problem. Meanwhile, the inversion spot is becoming hotly contested. Ruben Altice does not want to give up 8th position easily. He's already been passed by Mike Holloway in the past few laps, and Dean is now the one trying to apply the pressure.
Yeah, from the lead, he dropped like a stone back to 8th, but has been treading water there ever since that restart at about lap 15 or so. But Altice just doing everything he can to hold on to that 8th and final inversion spot.
See that interval. Speeds as Altice gets loose. Nearly spins it around. Here comes Dean to the high side. Remember, he struggled with grip there before on that line. He'll have to try and make it work for this pass as he scrubs the walls side by side for 8th.
Yeah, these guys battling so hard. One guy gets an advantage. No, you take this position. No, you just back and forth, and they're still side by side now going into 3.
Dean kicking out the back end once more, getting very loose. Really had to back it down, nearly got into Altice. The 11 holds on to that spot for now as a result.
And a sigh of release there from Altice.
Here's the look once more of the onboard of how close this got.
You see the wheel there coming off the corner, turning so far to the right. You never want the wheel that far to the right, but able to keep the car under him. Just look at that, 90 degrees to the opposite direction of where you want to be pointed, but keeps it off the wall and keeps the car pointed the right direction. Man, those guys fighting very hard for that inversion spot.
Meanwhile, J.R. Shepard has fallen back a couple seconds now to your race leader, Justin Morton, right into the clutches of James Lowe. James Lowe has quietly been lurking in the 4th position this entire time. How are his tires is a big question now, coming up to 25 laps to go.
Yeah, that 99 balls out racing machine of James Lowe, just doing everything he can, holding the bottom, waiting for Shepard to maybe step up a half lane or a lane off the bottom, and that's going to open the door for him. But all the guys seem a little more comfortable riding that yellow line in turns 3 and 4 compared to turns 1 and 2.
And just the various differences when it comes to this racetrack and the driving styles as Shepard gets loose this time. These drivers are falling back to the 22nd bracket. The fall off, about 8/10. One driver in the wall right up the road from him. It's Mike Allen. And Mike Allen lets by the race leaders. Nearly got ran over by Austin Belke as Donnie Moore goes underneath as well. No caution, we stay green.
If you're Justin Morton, that is one thing that you are very happy about to see that yellow flag not come out there. But Shepard and Lowe still battling very hard for the 3rd spot.
You can tell Lowe thinking about the move. Building up the run this time on Shepard. Not in the right position though to be able to pounce. And this is going to be the main thing once more. Forcing a similar mistake from the multiple time champion is oh so very tough. Remember, Lowe, a champion himself now, looking to utilize that championship pedigree to try and battle for this position coming up to 20 to go.
Yeah, very large gap from your front 2 of Morton and Thunhurst back to Shepard, now over 2 seconds. Man, these top 4 just battling every bit that they can. Belke, he's got some breathing room behind him, so now if he wants to make a push, he's got to do it now, because he's got to catch up to these guys in front of him before trying to get around them.
Should be worth noting one of the air battles going on involves 9th position. Brian Dean, Todd Liston fighting for that position, and Dean does not look comfortable right now. Continuing to slide the rear tires, Liston all the way to the wall to try and make the pass and takes the spot away.
Surprising to see him get that move done, but look how high up the racetrack Liston is. He is a full 3 or 4 lanes off the bottom compared to the rest of the field that are still holding that yellow line.
I don't think I've seen drivers utilize that high of a line before, but you can see just how big of a ramp of momentum it brings. But it's cost him a lot of time to Dean in turn 2. Dean takes the spot back as a result.
And listen, thought about the crossover move there, but Dean just holding the bottom and not letting him get by, and he's going to have the run here. Dean is going to just be clear and try to check out for the time being.
That's going to be interesting to see if he can check out with those back tires slipping and sliding on him at the moment. Remember, Liston was involved in the first caution of the race. He's recovered to 10th position since then after riding in the back much of this race, dealing with a bit of damage. Donnie Moore has also been reeled in as well by Mike Holloway. Mike Holloway having a very quiet but calm race tonight, up 6 positions compared to Moore's 9.
And Liston has gotten around Dean for that position, but these guys still fighting, and you can see how low he's staying on the racetrack. Wants to get that move done. Donnie Moore just can't do it. And now this is further back. This is Brian Dean. He is in a world of hurt. His tires are just absolutely cooked at this point.
Let's take a look at what happened from up top. And he got freight trained by not just Liston, but a couple of other cars as well for position. As wow.
Fantastic car control, but those rear tires have to be absolutely scorched at this point.
That was Lojo. Ronnie Seneca taking advantage as he nearly looped it around coming off of turn 2 across the bumps. Only drivers behind him on track are Jason Menda, Bruce Pearson, and Jason Menda is trying to close up the gap and quickly. Near contact in front of him, though, as the boss man, Lord Jewell, went towards the door of Todd Liston and shuffled Liston now up the racetrack. Liston with the run back. coming up to 11 to go for these drivers.
And look at all that momentum that Liston has on the high side. He's not going to be clear here, but he's just going to be right all over that back bumper going into turn number 1.
Here's a scary moment to think about, though. With how they're fighting, especially with 10 laps to go now, there is a chance Justin Moore and Matthew Thunhorst may get to this group. So this could be intriguing to see what could happen. You see the race leaders coming off of turn 4 as they're making their way down the straightaway.
Yeah, that's one of those give and take scenarios where you just can't give anything. I know that these are the leaders coming up behind you, but you're still battling for position with guys that are on your lap. So it's going to be interesting to watch and see how they can, how these leaders can get through as we're under now 10 laps to go.
Especially if they end up getting there completely. At the very least, they may get to 1 car, if not 2, in that grouping during the final stages. Now it's the matter, though, of can Thunhorst get a move done on Justin Morton? He's got 7 laps to work with, and he's been picking up the tempo.
Gap is about 2 seconds from Morton up to Seneca, and he's just holding on. The way that they are making up ground about a 10th a lap, I don't think they're going to get there for those lap cars to put up a fight, but Thunhorst really wants to see those lap cars come into play and use them possibly as a pick to get around.
That would be huge if it ends up becoming the case, but it all depends on how those drivers play with one another up towards the front. Dean is trying to clear out from that group now. Liston side by side with Mena, you see up the road. They're within 5-6 car lengths, but Thunhorst is within the inside line of Morton with 5 to go. He's chosen now to pounce. Morton under pressure. Thunhorst slipping and sliding. Up the track goes Ryan Seneca to move onto the way as they now have reached the pack.
And wow, I am surprised at how quickly they caught those lapped cars. But now Morton doing everything he can. He was very slow coming off the 2 last time. That's what opened the door for Thunhorst.
Thunhorst now looking to regroup to get side by side again. Able to do so, a touch bit off of turn 4, 3 to go this time. Slipping and sliding again nearly into the quarter panel with a 9.
Very respectful racing from these guys, but man, they are just digging, trying to get around one another.
Coming up to 2 laps to go, this time by. Thunhorst with a good run off of turn 4, lines it up behind Morton, dives it to the inside. Once again, the TDR machine forced up to the second line for corner exit. He gets the pull, though, down the backstretch, coming to the white flag this time by.
And we're set for a spectacular finish here coming off turn number 4. White flag is out.
Final lap from Nashville Fairgrounds Speedway. Will it be Morton or will it be Thunhorst is the question. Thunhorst working as hard as he can for this position. The traffic evening out in front. One last dive for Thunhorst. Morton from the high line. Thunhorst slides up. Not able to get there. Justin Morton wins it at Nashville.
Incredible battle as J.R. Shepard holding on to that 3rd position, wrapping up the top 5. Looks like it's going to be Lowe and Belkey.
Donnie Moore holding on to 6th position. Mike Holloway 7th. Ruben Ortiz going to be a final inversion spot as the last of the drivers cross the stripe. And Todd Liston appears has gone around in front of the race leaders on the cool-down lap, slowing down the celebrations, while Liston's actually trying to pull out a burnout himself from 13th position. But for Justin Morton, celebration can start on the front straight of League's Grand National Series. Post-race coverage coming up in just a few moments. You're watching GSRC for coverage. BRL's Grand National Series presented by Gargamel's Kitchen. Welcome back to GSRC's coverage of the Bootleg Racing League's Grand National Series presented by Gargamel's Kitchen as we look towards what was an exciting finish and finishing result. The race results now on screen with Justin Morton taking the checker flag by 0.186 seconds over Matthew Thunhorst, with J.R. Shepard in third position. James Lowe finished in fourth with Austin Belke rounding out the top five. Donnie Moore, one of your hard chargers of the race, from 15th to 6th, with Mike Holloway from 13th to 7th. Ruben Altiste held on to the lead for a little while before dropping back to 8th position for the final inversion spot, with the boss man Lowell Jewell in 9th. Brian Dean rounded out your top 10 chat.
Jason Menda and Bruce Pearson 11th and 12th, barely hanging on to the lead lap there, with Todd Liston and Ryan Seneker both finishing one lap down. Mike Allen and Kurt Smith wrap up the field, both multiple laps down.
That's a look top to bottom at your running order for tonight's race, but it's Justin Morton who holds on to take the checker flag. Justin, talk us through your final few laps of that race as Matthew Thunhorst started applying the pressure and trying to make the dives to the inside, all while you guys were closing up to lead lap traffic, or rather lap traffic.
I was getting rather worried seeing those lap cars. I was really hoping we weren't going to catch them. I don't know. Those last 30 laps, I don't think I could not breathe. I was so stressed out. I knew Matt had saved his stuff a little bit better than me, and that was my goal for the entire race, to just pace myself, and it seemed to work. So I'm pretty happy with the result.
Definitely worked out, it looked like, for tonight. What were some of the major challenges of trying to make sure you didn't overcook those tires here? Because this is a track where tire wear can be very vital and very important.
Yeah, that entry to turn 3, the car really wanted to slide. It was fast to slide for a little bit, but it just killed your stuff. So I've tried to manage that. At the end of the race, I really started noticing it bad. And on the exit of 2 and 4, you had to watch that tire spin a lot because high banks here, coming over that ridge kind of just upsets the car. Just try to be patient on the throttle.
Now, a little bit of a break for the 4th of July weekend, but the next race on the schedule is going to be an interesting one. Concord Speedway. Your thoughts on that track, especially with it being so unique when it comes to its features and shape?
Yeah, I actually got to run Concord in these cars a few weeks ago. It's an interesting combo. All 3 turns drive completely different from each other. Passing is going to be pretty hard, but it should be pretty fun. I enjoyed my race there, even though it ended in some tears. Yeah, it should be a fun one.
Anyone you want to thank for your run tonight?
Yeah, like to thank my team, Toll Down Force Racing. I love running with them. Great group of guys. Pixel Dust for the amazing paint, as always. Lowell for running this great league. Gargamel's Kitchen for jumping on to sponsor us. Welcome. Hope we put on a good show for you. And thank you guys for doing the broadcasting. We really appreciate it.
Congratulations once again on the win to Justin Morton. He takes your checker flag here in Nashville. Second place went to Matthew Thunhorst. He's with Chad Irvine.
Matthew, what an incredible battle that you had there at the end with Justin. Did you have anything for him?
I was throwing everything at him I could. It's just, getting by JR, I sat there and I've watched him the replay and I got into him. So, I feel bad about that. And that's not when I want to do it. And I wanted to avoid that with Justin. And, it was so tough there at the end because my right rear was pretty much gone trying to do all the work it had to. And, Justin ran a really good race. So I threw everything I had at him and he fended me off. So, congrats to him on that. I didn't leave anything out there.
Yeah, it was a fantastic battle to watch. What were your thoughts as laps wound down, especially just with the tire wear? How did that impact your car?
I was trying to keep the car saving the tires, and just way too many times I was going into 3 deep and I was just getting me loose. And that cut down line I really loved. There's a dip in 2 that really upsets the car if you try to throttle up too much, and then if you start sliding on entry into 3, just starts eating the right rear up. And so pretty happy that I was able to stay right there with Justin. Glad I was sitting there able to take care of the tires enough to have something there at the end, because I did an okay job trying to save the tires, but I used them up too much. So, I was pretty happy with where I was at, and I was keeping it right there.
Yeah, when you saw those lap cars coming up and you guys were catching them, were you just licking your chops waiting for something to happen with those guys?
I was more worried about what was going to happen with them because I didn't want to see something where, maybe they had a bump or bang or something and then we get caught up in it. So, I mean, I was more trying to focus on Justin, just trying to keep my eyes out in case of an incident because it's like anything. It could play out a certain way, but, I'd rather, if I get the win, I'd rather do it, doing it on my own and maybe not having to do a lap car pick or something.
Well, hey, it was a fantastic battle to watch. You guys put on quite the show. Who do you have to thank for your performance here in the opener?
Just we had to do a little bit of playing around with it, but me and Justin got to figure out to where we could still talk with the switch to Discord. But kudos to him and on the win, and I'd like to thank him for hanging out with me, Lowell for the league, Gargamel for coming on and sponsoring this season, so they can be broadcasted by you all and we can bring it to the folks. So thanks to all those fine folks, and I hope it was a good show we put on tonight. I felt like it, so pretty proud of what we did. So.
Well, hey, congratulations on your second place finish, and we'll see you in 2 weeks at Concord.
Thank you.
That's Matthew Thunhorse, the second place driver here tonight. We've got one final interview to wrap things up. It looks like, Justin, you've caught up with JR.
Yes, indeed. J.R. Shepard coming away with third tonight, 4.2 seconds behind the race lead. What happened, J.R., during the second half of that race with the tires?
My tires were good. Just after the contact with Matt, there was no point in trying to race those guys hard and create more contact. So went into tire saving mode, hoping for a caution at the end, and we never got one. So it's part of it.
Got you on that. And as a result here, how difficult was it to try and pass without making contact here? Because it looked like several times, especially up for the race lead, it was very aggressive for that fight for the point.
Yeah, Nashville's traditionally a pretty hard track to pass at. That's why when I was running behind Justin, I was conserving the tires and just trying to set him up. I could see him getting loose into turn 3, and I knew eventually I'd be able to try to make a move on him, and that allowed Matt to get to my inside, and that didn't bother me at all, but I had to open up the wheel a few times when he slid into me. So, I mean, it's a racing tactic, something I don't like doing, but probably going to have to change my thinking on that moving forward just to try to maintain track position.
Concord is next. Your thoughts on that racetrack, especially with its unique characteristics?
Yeah, it's going to be a tough track for sure. It's one that we haven't been to in a long time. So I have to take a look at it, maybe watch some past races there, and see what we need to get the job done. But yeah, if everybody thought passing here was hard, it's going to be extremely hard to pass there. So it's going to be a tough race.
Anyone you want to thank for your run tonight?
Yeah, just thank you to the Bootleg Racing League, allowing us to have a place to come and race, and my team, Different Path Motorsports, for everything that we got going on right now. So just appreciative of that, and thank you to everything that you guys do at GSRC.
Congratulations on the run tonight, JR.
Thank you guys. Appreciate it.
That's J.R. Shepard coming away with third tonight. I'd like to thank him, Matthew Thunhorse, Justin Morning, for taking the time to speak with us during post-race coverage here on GSRC. And on that note, Chad, want to ask your final thoughts on how things played out tonight, because some intriguing battles for the race lead, and as mentioned, a bit of contact scene, yes, with Thunhorse and Shepard. But how would you describe this race?
Incredible. There were battles all throughout the field from beginning to end. There was that battle, of course, for the lead that we watched, but there was also some fun battles even for that inversion spot for the 8th position. That was another fun one to watch. It was my first time checking out this league, and it was a ton of fun watching these guys battle door to door for so long.
And it's going to be very intriguing to see what happens the next time out, but we'd like to thank you for tuning in for tonight's exciting action from the virtual Nashville Fairgrounds Speedway. I'd also like to thank the Bootleg Racing League for organizing this exciting series, as well as the title sponsor this season, Gargamel's Kitchen, for coming on board for the BRL's Grand National Series this season. We'd also like to thank the companies who provide the software and hardware for broadcasts listed on screen. Additional thanks to Jude Lawler, who provides wonderful music. See the screen for how to get a hold of more for great work. Thanks to the team today as well in Chad and Sean. If you'd like to find out more about GSRC, including upcoming races, you can find it at globalsimracingchannel.com. If you'd like to help support the channel, you can check out our merchandise for sale at gsrc.stormby.com. Or you can check out our social media on Twitter at GSR Channel, Facebook Global Sim Racing Channel, and Instagram at GSRC_Graham. Don't forget to head over to YouTube page and hit that big red subscribe button, as well as the notification bell so you don't miss a moment here on the Global Sim Racing Channel. As talked about, the next race goes off to Concord. That's on July the 10th. After a 4th of July weekend break, be sure to tune in. Coverage starts approximately 8:50 p.m. Eastern Time. Green flag scheduled approximately 9:05 p.m. Eastern Time. We also have upcoming races for other series listed on screen, so be sure to check those out and mark them down in your calendar. Until next time, race clean, race hard, and we'll see you on the track.